You're listening to the Waypoint TV Podcast Network, brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors.
The 1911 is one of the most iconic firearms in history. Designed by John Browning, the 1911 was the standard issue sidearm of the U.S. military from 1911 to 1985. While Colt produced the original, almost every major firearm company has produced its own version. It's wildly revered for its reliability, crisp trigger, and is still a favorite for all types of shooters. Whether you're looking to buy or build a 1911 and just about everything for guns, log on to midwayusa.com.
Hey everyone, this is Captain Steve Roger from Into the Blue TV. And as soon as I feel a little break from this heat, I know that hunting season is upon us. Actually, the first time I ever went hunting, a buddy took me. Wasn't my father or my grandfather. In fact, I took my father on his very first hunt. Well, Academy Sports and Outdoor Stores has everything to gear up for the field for less. Plus, you can shop a wide selection of ammo, shotguns, deer corn, rifle, feeder, game cameras, camo, and more from the brands you trust. Text HUNT24 to 22369 to take $20 off a $100 purchase when you shop hunting supplies at academy.com. Need a hunting license? Pick it up in store while you're shopping.
All right, everybody. We're sitting here and we're talking to Greg Litzinger. And Greg, how you doing, man?
Good, man. You got the name right, so that's a plus.
I got the name right. Yeah. How's the wrist doing? Long road?
Yeah, we're slow. Turtle race at this point.
Yep. But wow. I saw the whole mouthpiece thing with the compound bow. Did you pick up a compound bow just because?
Yeah, I bought a left-handed bow because I got to shoot with my left-handed bow and shoot with my left eye, but I'm right eye dominant, and it's a lot of people pick it up quickly. I'm not, I guess, picking it up as fast as I thought I could do it. Because I'm because I've shot left-handed years ago because I had shoulder problems, so I learned how to shoot left-handed. But it's drawing and anchoring was a lot easier than trying to use your, push the bow out with a mouth tab on, because it's I can't do a lot of weight. I'm at 42 pounds right now, 43 pounds, and I'm good for a dozen shots or so. And then it's my teeth, jaw, because it's you're over gripping it. It's like a death grip on your back molars, because it's because I don't want it to come out, so it's I'm squeezing for dear life and just grinding my teeth. So it's I'm good literally for 10 or 12. And it's I shot 4 days in a row, and I haven't shot the last 2 days because it feels like I got punched in the face, my jaw.
Oh, so man.
So it's I gotta limit my time, limit the amount of arrows, so that I'm gonna just be hunting, as soon as I can. I've kind of given up on that.
It's rough. That's a rough one. It's a tough pill to swallow, isn't it?
Yeah, and I can't do a cross. Personally, I just can't do a crossbow. I feel.
I know you'd be all like Clay.
Yeah. Well, no, my thing is nothing. I'll shoot the biggest deer in my life with a crossbow. That's I'll have the season of all seasons with a crossbow, and I was I don't know if I can have that on my resume. My friends would never let me live that one down because it's yeah, I'm not there yet. So it's maybe.
Yeah, but you legitimately have a handicap.
Yeah.
So what's your handicap, Clay? Just
my handicap is that I don't care and I just want meat. But anyway, I'm saying along his philosophical line of reasoning. So if you were capable, you would use a regular bow. So yeah. I don't think that it detracts from your record because right now you're not capable.
Yeah,
I mean I know you have your pride and your honor and
I would literally I shit you not, I would shoot the biggest deer of my life with a crossbow.
Yeah.
And I've been hunting for 35, 36 years. So it's I don't know if I can have that. I don't think I can I don't even really gun hunt that much anymore, muzzleloader, rifle hunt, because that's what'll happen. I'll shoot a big animal with a gun, and I want to shoot the biggest animal with a bow.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that one. Clay,
Yeah.
I had my wrist surgery, and Clay told me I should start shooting my bow with the mouth tab, and I'm like, well, really, I don't need to shoot my bow yet. I've got months, and now here I am waiting down to the wire. Ordered a bow press at the last minute. It just came today, 3 weeks later, and trying to put a string on, and now I'm not so confident in my abilities anymore to put the string on. So, oh well.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys both traveled back to the past, right? And you had an interaction with somebody, which I realize that neither of you is like hoping to shoot a big buck for the meat, but I think like my mind can't stop thinking about the food aspect of it, and because there's that food aspect to it, I'm just like, whatever, man. Like if I was allowed to shoot like a deer in the head with a bazooka, I would,
I guess.
So,
I don't like. I feel like said if the teeth thing, mouth tab don't work out. I mean, like you said with the meat aspect, because I lost 3 last year. I had 3 non-fatal hits last year, so
ooh.
there's not much. I got like maybe 3 things of burger left in the year prior and a few steaks. So both my freezers are empty. So it gets to the point where it's like I need some deer meat, because my youngest, she loves it, and we don't eat it a lot anymore. And she always asks when we're gonna have deer meat. So it's like that pressure might force me to rethink the crossbow thing, but I'm not there yet. I haven't been mentally broken yet to like my buddy, like he's like he comes over and he's a crossbower. He comes over and he's like, I'm just going to leave this here for you. You want to shoot it or not? I don't care. I'm like, dude, get that thing out of my house. I don't even want it in my house. Because they are fun to shoot. Like I'll shoot the shit out of a crossbow. Like they are a fun toy to play with.
Mhm.
If you go from like my daughter, like when she's 6 now, 10, she always says she wants to go hunting. She'll probably do a crossbow the first couple of years.
That's yeah.
I got no problem with that.
My daughter, I took one out of the box, put the bow on the rifle portion of it on the stock, put it together in a matter of like 10 minutes, slapped the scope on it. After about 4 or 5 shots, I had the scope dialed in at 20 and 30 yards. Gave it to my daughter, and she 10-ringed one on her first shot ever shooting a crossbow at 20 yards.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy cow, this is like pretty dummy proof,
And for
yeah.
what's the minimum draw weight in the state you're at?
The minimum draw weight? In Illinois, I believe it's 40 or 45.
Yeah, so Jersey is 35, and when I was 14, and back then there was no releases, so straight fingers, 50% let off bows. The bows weren't very comfortable to shoot. They were like built without a wood risers, like a 2x4. You're holding the 2x4 and using your fingers. But at 14, I struggled to pull back 35 pounds.
Yeah,
like,
I believe it.
Like you're using your fingers like old like leather tab, and like it was tough shooting. Now, with whisker biscuits and mechanical release days, like 35, probably a little easier to pull back these days than it was 3 decades ago.
Especially if you're only pulling like 12% of the draw, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like the whole draw length, you're pulling 12%, and then all of a sudden it starts letting off, and you're at like 85% let off. Not terrible. I remember my old first Ben Pearson bow that I had. I shot the hell out of that thing. I was probably 14 or 15, I think 14 when I got it. But man, I did everything on that bow. And now it's like, everything I do on like this new bow, I'm second guessing myself because it's got twice the amount of stuff on it versus just regular cams and like simple stuff. I had the old sight pins you'd adjust that had like the slider slot, and you just loosen up the knurled knob and slide it up.
Cobra sights. Yeah.
Yeah.
A little white glow in dark phosphorescent paint on the tips.
Yep. I got one that's a Cobra that's one of the newer ones that has a fiber pin in it that's got nothing to protect it, so they get broken off all the time. I was looking through my archery stuff today, and I'm like, holy cow, I didn't know I still had one of them.
Yeah.
Can you explain to me, because I don't understand, what's the 12% thing?
Oh,
You were saying pull back 12%.
Well, what I'm saying is like, so the total jaw length, say your jaw length is like 28.5 inches. Let's say at like 14 inches of the draw of the pull, all of a sudden all the weight lets off, because that's where like you get over that hump of the initial weight. It's all right there in the beginning, and then it's gone because of the let off. 85% of the weight anyway. So now say, you're holding 14 pounds instead of 35, or well, way less than that, but whatever, you're holding 5 pounds back.
So that's what the percentage is when you're pulling back on the on a compound bow, and it gets to that point where it lessens.
Yeah.
Okay.
To where you're holding 85% of the weight, or some of them are even like, a lot of them, some of the lower end bows that are like kid size, they're definitely less than that. But, some of them are like 75% let off, but there's still quite a bit of let off to where you're not holding back that whole weight.
Yeah,
Okay.
The uprising, the bow I bought is 65% let off. It's nothing, but it doesn't feel like I'm not pulling a lot of weight, so it's easy, like
easy with your teeth.
Yeah, 65% of 40 pounds isn't a lot of weight, at all. Because even like I said, at max draw at 26 inch draw length is what I am shooting with the mouth tab. The bow go to 71 pounds to 33 pounds. Like, and I'm at 42. So it's like this bow's like the limbs are damn near almost backed all the way out.
That's crazy. That's cool though. I mean, a lot of people have done it. I don't know of anybody that actually, like, there's a lot of guys out west that you see that have done the whole mouth tab thing, but I don't know if any of them actually got an elk. I know like Dirk Durham was doing it when he had his rotator cuff surgery. And
I think he killed the first morning.
Oh, did he? Oh, man.
Remy Warren, he that whole season, he killed a shit ton of animals. Dudley, he killed. But then again, like they have a lot more time to spend in the woods than I do,
Well, except for now, right?
Yeah.
Like, you got all the time in the world this season. Yeah. You probably won't go back to work till next year, so you got plenty of time.
I just hate not having a routine. Like, there's stuff I want to do. Like, I get up to go look for deer, but then I get angry because I see like some good bucks in these fields, at like 6 o'clock in the morning, 6:30. I can't hunt them, and it's just kind of makes me angry. Because it's like, man, I got all the time in the world. I'm like, I love seeing deer. Like, I love watching them, but it's like, man, this sucks. Because it's like going to like a, like, I don't know, like fishing pond, and you see this giant bassman around, you don't have a fishing pole. You're like, yep, You have to stand there on the sideline. It's a little frustrating for me because it's like I have the motivation to do it, the will to do it, but the body's like, no.
Yeah.
So it's like mentally, it's like, I got to stop looking for deer because it's kind of just makes me a little sad and a little angry at the same time.
Oh man. So I got to ask you, isn't it like unlimited does in New Jersey? You could shoot like as many as you want?
Certain zones you can shoot a lot, yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Certain zones you can't. Like there's a couple zones that got hit with that blue tongue or EHD. Like down by the shore. You can kill one deer, that's it, buck or doe.
Oh.
Yeah. All season long. Well, the bow season. And then permit season, it's another. You can kill just one deer, buck or doe. So the numbers are down, but you drive a mile down the street and it's like, hey, you can shoot, as many as you want. It's a weird, like how their zones line up sometimes, because literally like this zone here, like a lower zone, it's super restricted, but you literally cross the street, it's another zone, and it's a free for all. You can pretty much kind of do what you want, and then you're like, it's literally the same fucking deer going back and forth. But they're just using that road the way it's like zoned off, the way they wrote the zones, like it's like that just doesn't make any sense. It's like it's literally like it's woods on both sides, so it's deer crossing. So it's like, well, hunting across the street is public, hunting across streets public, but over here there's restrictions out the yin yang, but over here there's not. So it's like, because I mean, people aren't exactly the most honest hunters, and fishermen sometimes aren't the most honest group of individuals.
What?
Yeah. So
I would.
some people are like tagging it and shooting one across the street, tagging it in the other.
Well, I wouldn't know anything about that, but um,
Well, hold on. I want to say something. Right, that's funny about that. Right now is like the start of our salmon run here in Michigan, where I live,
Mm-hmm.
and it's almost comical. Like spawning salmon are not biting, at least here in Michigan. They're not. So like everybody who catches a salmon, almost universally, they're throwing it in and snagging them on the back.
Yeah.
Right. But then you talk to them and they're like, "Oh yeah, I caught it. He bit it." You're like, "Yeah, right."
And snagging illegal, right? You can't snag them.
Yeah, you can't snag them even though they're on their way to die.
Yeah.
that doesn't make a whole lot of sense either. Can you net them or anything? Like dip
No.
net them or no?
No. Sometimes the tribes will walk down the river here and they'll tell people, "I'll catch you one for $5."
Well, because they can do whatever they want, right?
Yeah, they can
As
just
far
do
as-
whatever they want. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though that's kind of funny too, because salmon is not a native fish.
It's not of Michigan. It's not.
Nope. It's not a native fish here. They were all brought in the 60s.
Hmm.
Yeah. But anyway,
Interesting. Yeah,
I
there you go.
digress.
Yeah.
Just talking about the how people will kind of not be truthful. in
Yeah.
hunting and
And the
fishing.
rules.
Yeah.
Well, it's like the people that go paddle fishing, like because they don't have a mouth, like you have to foul hook them, like paddle fishing. So it's like the people are just like chunking and whining big old like treble hooks, and I'm like, I guess like for me, like I guess it's the only way you can manage the fish. But like me personally, I don't know if I could do that. Like I found like foul hooking fish in the tail, like on the back, it's a great fight because it is just like pure power. It's great, but it's like for me, like if I'm like a sportsmanship, I don't know. I don't think I could do it. I don't think I can go paddle fishing, It just doesn't sit with me very well.
Well, I don't even like a lot of people go sturgeon fishing, and to me, like in Montana or whatever in these rivers, and you see them on them jet boats and stuff, and it's like they're hooking the fish, fighting it, and then taking it out of the picture, taking pictures with it and then letting it go. It's like if that's your thing, that's cool. But to me, I mean, it seems like you're putting that fish through an awful lot just to take one picture. Yeah, just to take one picture with it. I don't know.
You guys, they might actually be going back to their buddies though, telling them that they just got on Instagram.
Maybe, yeah.
I remember as a kid, my uncle was a big striper fisherman. I'd go down to Atlantic City in the back bays, and he would always give me poles. And the drag was set so heavy because you have the possibility of catching 60-pound fish. So like I'm in like second grade, just these poles with like ridiculous amount of drag, and I remember like catching fish young, just getting beat up because he's like, if you touch that drag, I will cut the line because he wanted to get fishing because he didn't want them, because there was the fishery back then wasn't the best, the striper fisherman. So it's like he wanted to just get on the boat as fast as possible. I'm like, man, I'm not a grown man, Uncle Pierce. I was like, I don't have the strength that you have. Like, I need a drag to make this work. But he was so adamant. You touch that drag, I will cut that line, and I'll never break you out here again. But it was like you just crank, just like a 25-inch, or 36-inch fish. It's just straight reeling it in. It's like big heavy tackle.
Yeah. So I got to ask you though, you found a lot of success hunting public land in Jersey, and I mean, what do you think is like some of your biggest contributors to that? Is putting in time, certain scouting? What are you doing that gives you an advantage?
Just lots of scouting and a good mental belief that I'm gonna kill one. It is like with anything, like you gotta believe in your head what you're doing is going to get to where you need to go. If you have doubt, if you're out there scouting, scout with a purpose. Like once I started to like figure out, scouting methods that worked for me, it was like I'm not the best deer hunter. I'm just very like I will just go till I got nothing left. It's just every waking second, So it's like, but play sports, whatever it is, like you got to believe you're going to hit that ball if you go up to bait or catch that ball, throw that ball, golf, whatever. You got to have that belief that what you're doing is paying off. So scout with a purpose. I would scout for years, just walk the woods. What am I doing? I'm scouting. You're just walking the woods. You didn't have a plan. So it's like, all right, I want to scout rubs because, well, I could decipher rubs. This tree is rubbed a certain type of way. Well, all right, there's a bunch of these trees, same height, same characteristics over here. So I started, like get in with rubs and then like bedding, and then like with the scrapes, but it was like for me, just rubs and bedding was kind of for just my brain understood it. It just made sense to me. I'm not a big food guy. A lot of places I hunt, the big woods, anybody that hunts, they're more roamers than, I do hunt. There is some bean fields and cornfields, but most of the spots I hunt were just forage. So it was like I didn't have a set destination food plot or hey, there's this giant oak flat. It's just browse. So hunting food was always out because they would eat wherever and never consistent. So I was a big rub line guy. And then that kind of got me into beds and I kind of just merged the two.
Are you, when you're hunting beds, are you hunting the beds versus the rub lines certain times of year? Or is it based upon just kind of wind direction, animal behavior? What are you basing that on?
Primarily just what I think is best bedding for that day. A lot of, this should show my age, but back in the day, like Roger Ragland had this video invading big buck bedding areas. And I just took it, and it's like as I got through, hunting more and more and the internet stuff, I ran into, like Dan Infalt, the hunting beast and all that stuff. And it's like what I was doing was very similar to what those guys were doing. So I'm like, okay, like what I'm doing is right, hunting beds, bedding areas. But those guys, I was hunting bedding areas. They were hunting specific beds, singular beds. So I took my bedding area knowledge and then kind of morphed it into I want to find a single bed. And I would base most of my hunts off hunting close to a single bed. And that seemed to be very successful. I started seeing more bigger deer hunting that than saying, if I'm 60 yards or 80 yards or 100 yards from a single bed, like a buck's going to come back to that bed. I can usually see it, but if I'm just hunting like a giant bedding area that's 150 yards by 150 yards, like if you're on the wrong side of it and the deer on the other side, you're never going to see nothing. So the hunting a singular bed it just worked how my brain breaks things down, how my brain process things. I think a lot of it has to do with like my job. It's like I'm a mechanic, so I have to like figure things out why things aren't working or are working. So like the singular bed thing just kind of fit how my brain works.
Are you using cameras to watch those beds once you find them during scouting, or are you just kind of ascertaining this is a bigger buck, these are his tracks, and like utilizing that kind of sign to cipher out who he is?
Fresh tracks, and I do run cameras, and all these deer here like behind me, they were all killed with no cameras. I've killed more deer without cameras than with cameras, mature deer, so it's like cameras they're nice to get inventory, they're nice for certain things, but I do believe they kind of dull your senses a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm guilty of that too, because it's like, oh man, historically speaking, this spot turns off, it turns on the first week of October. Well, I won't go out now because historically, first week of October, like it's on. Well, most of the deer I found, it's like, all right, I have 3 beds over here. I go scouting and I find fresh tracks, in a rub near one bed. I'm like, okay, I'm going to just set up on this, and I would kill. Now it's like oh man, I got my trees picked out, like the camera, I'm gonna go check it, nothing on that camera. And then you kind of, at least for me, like I kind of lose that, that ability to think on the fly. And last year I kind of, I ran a lot of cameras, but I wasn't totally fixated on the cameras. I got back to just hunting.
Yeah,
And I had 3 non-fatals and
that
2,
sucks.
yeah, it's like it felt good because that was one of my best seasons last year for like deer. Like I was on deer quite a bit, so it was nice having that again, like relying on camera data, but also relying on me and what I'm seeing as I'm walking in the woods.
Yeah, I found that like I used cell cameras when they first kind of came out, and they were at the affordable price point. I started
Mhm.
throwing them up. I bought like 4 or 5 of them. I threw them up, but then I found myself I was completely relying on them. I'd get hyper fixated on one deer that I'd see, and chances are I only knew part of his patterns because I was only relying on what the camera data was versus actually hunting sign and getting out there. So I was like, oh, I don't have to disturb anything. I can just get in there and get on. And it seemed like every time I'd try and predict one of the bucks that I was after, I'd end up just missing or seeing them 80 yards away from me or 100 yards away through stuff. And I'm like, no, this. And it got to the point where I did it another year after that, same thing, hyperfixated. Then I was on one area where I was like, oh, this is the only area I'm going to hunt. And then towards the end of the season, I started looking, and the sign that I missed out on by not going and like still hiking in and scouting my way in, it could have been a totally different story. So last year, and the year before, I went and I saw just as many big deer as I would have, more. I saw more big deer than I would have by only sticking to, 1 or 2 places that I put the cameras up. So I now I use them as a kind of like a security perimeter around my house, see what's going on. I don't use them for scouting anymore.
Yeah, I use like I have a few cell cameras, but they're in spots that you got to intrude a lot. Like I got to cross a lot of deer trails, and usually it's like, okay, there's this doe bedding area there's a couple scrapes on it, like, and I'll put a camera near there just because the does will start coming in the scrapes at a certain time of the year, but it might be the November 3rd. Last year might be like November 5th. So there's no guarantee that the deer is going to be there, but it's like, okay, like those does might be shifting, a couple days. And I use them, believe it or not, for people too, like in the salt marsh. There's some islands. It's like it's a lot of labor, a lot of man hours and time to get to some of these islands. And some dude was out there with his bird dog, just running all through those islands the day before. I don't know, so I'm getting out there super early, getting set up, and it's like, man, I ain't seen all day, 2 all day sits, I ain't seen a deer. Well, there's a dude with his dog out there bird hunting, or another bow hunter. So it's like I use cameras for those places where it's like, all right, I haven't seen any humans where they used to go into some of these islands. Okay, I'll go hunt those islands.
Yeah.
I don't get much deer in these cameras because they're wide open. I'll get does and whatever, but I don't usually get mature bucks on them. Like I'm the worst, actually, probably when it comes to putting out trail cameras. Like I'll see deer, but I don't see I see more deer visually, big deer, than I do with my cameras, even over scrapes, because I don't know if it's like a pressure thing, some of these big deer, like I'll get a lot of summertime pictures, like good quality pictures, but our season starts early September. Dude, by like end of August, these big bucks, people are in there baiting, run their cameras, and it just changes. I mean, they just switch overnight.
That's
They're
crazy.
they're getting ready to switch anyway because they're going to go hard soon. But it's like now there's like that human pressure switch that makes them go to a different place. So it's like I'll lose them, and then they, historically they'll come back. Mid-October they start showing up again.
So I got to ask you then, a lot of people say, oh, public land, it's too overpressured these days. There's too many people hunting it. Do you think that's true, or do you think it's just social media has kind of brought a light to more people being out there.
I think at least here in Jersey, because like I said, baiting's legal, crossbow's legal, and we have a lot of like gun hunters will crossbow hunt. They come out because it's like, okay, like my dad's, he's 75, he crossbow hunts. Like he stopped bow hunting because he couldn't do it. Bought a crossbow probably a decade ago, whatever, and now he hunts a lot more during bow season. But like aging guys, I see a lot of older gentlemen crossbows, so there is more pressure than there used to be, I would think, in certain spots. And I think it's related to, like I said, you can bait, crossbow, and cell cameras have definitely changed how deer move, especially here you can kill $5 in the state.
That's crazy.
Yeah, you can buy all your tags. Like you can kill $5. So it's like we've always been a high buck state, killing state. So it's like there's not many 140s running around. Like you'll get one every now and again, but it's hard to find a pope every year, a consistent, a pope.
That's crazy. $5. I'm still thinking about that, man. I haven't. Once you said that, I don't know if I've heard a single word that you said since then.
You were to buy. It said your bow. You can kill 2 with a bow, 2 with a gun, and 1 in winter bow.
No kidding.
And the state, they did a big whole thing, and they did like survey. They might even bump that up to $7.
Wow.
And it's like, what do you want to just have no deer left? I don't know.
That's insane. But I mean, as long as the biologists are doing it for like actual biology reasons and it's for the preservation of the herd, a lot of times it's not. I know Illinois is one of the most corrupt states in the entire country, so I'm fully aware of what's going on there. But
we have a lot of political corruption here.
Yeah. So I mean, I get it, but hopefully the biologists are actually considering the health of the herd. And, hoping that they're making the herd better and healthier by doing that, because that is insane.
Yeah, they said, talking about, like, I talked to some biologists at shows and from other state, PA a lot, and a few from Jersey, more game wardens from Jersey here and there. And I get like a mixed message with deer biologists from different states and people that are into like the fishing game, and it's weird, like, talking to somebody from PA and then like talking to New Jersey, their plans for the herd and future. Like I want, like, because we have antler restriction points in certain zones. Like the zones I hunt, it's got to be 3 on one side. And I come from an area when I first started, you can kill whatever you want. So it was hard to see a big buck. A 100-inch 8-pointer was a big deer. Like that was a really big deer. Then they went to the APRs. And I shit you not, within 2 years, I'm seeing better bucks. So because that 4-pointer, he's, he might have been a button buck. So he's had 2 hunting seasons now under him. He's smarter. Now he's going to sprout a little bit bigger, because when they're done, like a genetically gifted 4-pointer, he's probably going to get killed in most areas because he's dumb. He's going to make a lot of mistakes, but if you protect him, he can make it to that next league. Like 2.5-year-olds, I do believe, is when they start making that switch to get a little more, outside of the rut. Like they're a little more in self-preservation mode. They understand like the survival aspect of life, and then if you can get that deer to 3.5, okay, like now we're starting to see his potential, like, good genetics. I mean, one of my biggest deer, he was 140-inch 8. He was only 3.5 years old.
That's what I was going to ask you. Like, okay, say 120-inch, or say 130-inch 2.5-year-old, which would be huge. But let's say 130-inch 2.5-year-old, or like 120-inch 3.5-year-old. What are you going to shoot?
Depends on whatever. Because like the 3.5, it's going to have just a bigger body. Like I do like heavy deer.
Yeah.
I do like bigger, thicker body deer. They just look better. like coming in through the woods. 2.5, they're a little slender still.
Yeah.
I see, like, and you guys can see this deer right here,
Yep.
one with the base. He's 100 and, he just misses Pope. He's 124 and like fucking 6/8, but he was 2.5, and he's like a clean, like he's absolutely clean. And I had a Dodge Dakota. He was so long and skinny, like he like filled up the whole bed of the truck, and it was like, but he was 2.5 years old. Like he was just he had everything to be a world-class deer, but
Yeah. I did that once. I shot one that the rack wasn't that big. I mean, he was probably only 2.5-year-old, but the body on him, I could not believe the size, and just thinking like, man, this thing is a freaking moose, like body of like a 5-year-old, but the rack of like a yearling. It was crazy.
well, that's it. The first deer I ever shot was a 5-pointer. It weighed 127 pounds. The basket rack. It was like this. And I shot a spike that was like 114. And I've shot a 100-inch deer that's been 127 pounds. 115-inch deer that's 130 pounds dress. And you're like, and that was, some deer just got fat genetics, they get big bodies, no racks. And then it's like, you get other deer, it's like all racks, no body. Like that.
Yeah.
The best is a little mix of both,
Can I ask both of you guys a question? And I kind of know the answer, but I just want to see what you guys say. When I was growing up, I used to imagine a male deer is born. First year, he's got just nubs, or first fall. Second year, spikes, 4-point, 6-point. I used to think that that's how it progressed along with each year. Just for those of us who are on the listening end that are more in the foraging world, explain how the antler growth goes.
Midway USA brand product designers have one straightforward goal: develop high-quality, technically sound products and deliver them to customers at reasonable prices. If you are immersed in the shooting sports industry and pay close attention to every single detail, you know our products are built right and stand up to everyday use. Who has shooting mats and range bag systems to hunting clothing and just about everything for the outdoors? Log on and shop 24/7 with super fast shipping. MidwayUSA.com. At Midway USA, we know the AR-15 is one of the most popular rifles in modern American history. Known for its modularity and widespread use, it's often considered essential to any gun collection. The essential things you need to run an AR-15 are usually always in stock during shortages, things like magazines and 5.56 ammo. Whether you're looking to buy a new AR-15 or buy parts for your modern sporting rifle, log on and for just about everything for the outdoors, shop MidwayUSA.com.
Want to go?
I mean, it depends on the deer, honestly. I mean, within their first year, they could have 3.5-inch spikes. I've seen spikes with a little kicker like on them before, and I just sit there and watch them all day long, or a little forky, and they're 1 year old. Well, not even a year old yet. You know what I mean? But it happens. It just depends. It depends on the genetics of the deer and the amount of minerals that they get for an intake. That really can change the whole entire dynamic of their antlers.
And when they're born, if they're early born,
yeah,
I mean, he might have a little more because he's gonna be in the growing season longer than the deer that late born.
Yeah, late March or yep.
That you get them early drops, he has potential to pop out of his head, 2 or 3 inches, maybe in 4 inches. A lot of genes, food, genetics, and you look at like when they're first born, they're already a few months old, they're growing horns. So when they're in a year and a half, technically that's 3 seasons, 3 growing seasons. Like a year and a half, you look at it from a year and a half isn't, he was just born last year. There's 3 horn growing seasons in that year and a half. So like your first year, second year, third year is people like, it's a year and a half. Well, he's had 3 growing seasons to get that year and a half, basically.
I see.
People get that confused, like, he's 3.5. Well, if you do the math on that, 3.5, he's had a lot of growing seasons. You know,
Mm.
he's
So
not like three
is
and a
it
half guys.
yeah, is it possible for like a deer to go down a size in a year? Like
Hmm.
be like a 10 point one year, and then the next year they're just like, I'm gonna rock an 8.
Yeah, it's genetics, food,
Yeah.
stress.
Yeah.
Not a lot of forage because the antlers, they will take care. At least I'm not a biologist by any means, but I would think like they're like us. We will take care of our bodies, our bones, and our health before like we grow muscles. If you're
Mm.
having limited intake, if you're in the gym every day, you're not really going to get big muscles because there's nothing, to contribute to the muscle growth. Same with antlers. If there's not a lot of forage, we got deep, we here in Jersey, we don't get a lot of snow. And when you do get snow, there's some deer that don't even know what deep snow is. So
Hmm.
they have a tough time finding food in the winter. So they put their body through an even more stressful phase before they're growing, so they might struggle to find food,
Yeah.
and you
There
know,
was a 10 that I was watching, and I'd see him, quite a bit. And he was young, and I was like, man, he's going to be a beast of a deer. And he must have got hit by a car or something happened, and he had a shoulder injury because you could tell he had kind of a limp after that. And so one side the next year was like 7 on one side, and the other side was just a little fork, and that
yeah.
was it. And that's all he grew. And I don't know if somebody took him or whatever, but your body, especially if they had sustained like a traumatic injury, their body will commit the resources to that, I believe is how it works, versus actually producing antler growth on that side.
Like
Hmm.
the oldest deer I killed, he was 6.5, and I shot him up the mountains, but they didn't have, they had like a long cold winter, and obviously like not a lot of browse. Like I don't know why, but he was only like 117 inches, and I shot this deer here. He's off the same mountain range. He was 4.5, and he's bigger than the 6.5-year-old.
Hmm.
So you have a deer that's 4.5. Just a couple years later, literally 100 yards apart, where I shot these bucks at. 2-year difference, and the 4-year-old's significantly larger. The 6.5-year-old, he had a bigger body, way bigger body than the 4.5. But the 4.5, his horns just look cleaner. If that makes any sense. Just look like, I guess, healthier is probably a better choice of words. Look more mass. My old deer, he's not spindly, but he doesn't have mass for a deer that old. You know, and it's like that's just bad food. Maybe he got sick. Who knows?
Huh. That's also fascinating to me. Um, the uh, the only big buck that I've ever shot, I don't think I haven't had him aged, but he weighed 190 pounds with his guts out.
Well, that's a hammer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I did not expect to shoot a buck. I was about to shoot a doe.
And
then
he
and then
stepped out.
yeah, and he stepped out, and I was like, well, I gotta take it. I mean, look at this guy.
Tell him about what your woman said about that, though.
Oh, yeah, so and I kind of agree with her. She asked me to never shoot a big buck again because it tasted so terrible. Um,
See,
and
I've only had one buck that I shot that just was kind of funky, and it wasn't like the meat. I mean, I took proper precautions with the meat. It was just something to do maybe with the peak of whatever hormones he was either on the upslide or the downslide of. Um, but he had a slightly like musky taste to it, and that was the only buck I've ever shot like that, and it was just gross. But I mean, what's your take on that, and how many have you ever done that you ever had
I
like that?
I can tell you, food definitely plays a part. My buddies go to Iowa, and they shoot bucks, and they bring it back. You can cut that meat with like a butter knife. The meat's just different, man. And that is just, they're just, better minerals in the soil, better food. You know, um, I've had some few deer, like I said, it's been kind of funky. Um, especially like the back straps, like the loins are like, oh man, it's gonna be good. And you're cooking them up, you're like, it tastes like shit, man. You're like, oh, what this is? And it's like you grab like another pack and it's like, yeah, this is just like, so whenever I find like I get deer that are just like some of the cuts are off, I'll soak in a milk, old school, like just soak it in milk for a while to try and like flatten that out.
I thought you were gonna say you donate them to the homeless.
Yeah.
No, that's good though. I mean, that's what they do with like organs and stuff, with kidneys and everything else, to get like the taste out of those. So
Yeah.
What does that do? The milk thing. I mean, I always thought that was just like kind of some old wives' tale.
I used to do it we used to go carp fishing.
Mhm.
Where I grew up, there was a Chinese restaurant up the street, and they had like, my dad grew up in the water. My mom and dad had a house in the water. So I fished a lot growing up. So we had mulberry trees, they'd be over in the water, and we just catch carp all day long as a kid, fucking you just rip lips, dude, till from sun up to sundown.
that's awesome.
It was great, and the Chinese would eat the carp, and I'm like, man, that's a trash fish. So they're like, no, you soak it. And I think the kid's name was Sonny, or the guy's name was Sonny or something. I don't know. But they would soak it in milk. So I was like, so we tried it. I was like, wow, okay, like carp's actually like pretty good. I'm like, it's like a white meat, it was actually like really good. So it was like, 'cause we would shoot them with the bow and stuff like that and just give them to people put in their gardens, because like, oh, they're carp, they're trash fish. But they're prepared right, they're edible, So I was like, I did that with a deer, and it takes that, that funky taste out,
That's pretty good. So I think what it is, I'm not a scientist, but this is, so the fats tend to absorb like minerals and carry things, or different things. So I believe it's the fats within the milk that actually take the flavor, the different things out of it. I could be wrong, but I think that's the fats absorb certain things.
Sounds good. I mean, I'll buy that.
Do you have to use whole milk or 0.5% or?
Well, that's just milk.
Yeah,
back
whatever.
Then, I never really did 2% or skim milk.
Yeah, it's probably whole milk.
Okay.
Whole milk is the only milk that should be in your house anyway.
You know what? If I've lost 16 or 17 pounds this year, and one of the steps that I did along the way is start drinking 2% milk.
Do you know how lame you sound right now, Clay?
Yeah.
That's the reason why you lost the weight. Come on.
No, I mean, I'm just saying, like, I have cut calories where I can.
Yeah.
And one of those things is I do drink milk. And,
is it still raw milk? How is it 2% raw milk if it's
no, I'm not drinking raw milk. That's illegal, Luke.
What? Whatever. I don't care. You know what? You outlaw things enough and I'll become an outlaw. I'm sorry, but I can only comply with laws so many times, and then you tell me I can't drink milk anymore, and I'm gonna be like, okay, whatever.
But yeah, when we used to have raw milk, though, often the cream would be taken off the top to be made into butter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, see, goat's milk, you can't do that.
Yeah, it's
without a mechanical separator. Yeah, because it is homogeneous, which is pretty cool. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
but,
got way off topic.
So the funky deer taste, yeah, I mean, I basically just ate the deer, didn't soak it in milk. I was just like, I'm gonna eat this because, I have to. I'm not gonna waste it.
Clay will eat muskrats though, so
marsh bunnies, yeah.
Marsh bunnies, yeah. I don't like to eat them; they're pretty gross.
You ever eaten one? Greg?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of muskrats. I'll eat them, but it's like, because muskrats, it's big around here. There's salt marsh. There's muskrat festivals around here.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
New Jersey's big for trapping scrats, right?
Is it?
Yeah.
I didn't.
Yeah.
Okay.
And my buddy, he's over in Delaware. He traps a lot, and I mean, he would have it in there, like, just heat it up. It's like it's an acquired smell.
Oh, it's awful. This smell when you're skinning them is like the worst part, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, they do say musk rat, which kind of gives it away, right? It's got a musk to it.
It's like there's literally muskrat festivals by us, and like a lot of you know, I don't want to sound mean, but you go to some of those events and it's an interesting mix of people, that's for sure. And they really get into, I mean, they really get into it, and it's like, it's just not my thing, man. Like,
No, I
I
get
think I could eat it if I was like, man, I'm starving, I'm gonna die. I'll fuck some muskrats up, man. Like, it's but it's like I'm pretty good right now. Like I'm all right, man. Like, it's definitely, there's tradition behind it, man. There's a lot of people that survive on muskrats. You know, there's guys that just trap. You know, I hate saying low income, but guys that just live a
Low
not
income lifestyle.
yeah, not excessive. They don't have, you know, they're content with a small house, small
Mm.
boat. You know, like they drive the same truck they've been driving for 30 years. They don't live outside their means by any means. Like, those guys are, you know, they trapping is a way of life for them. Raccoon, you know, I've had raccoon. That's an interesting um animal to eat. Beaver was strange, very
Really? You
rich.
think strange? Beaver is one of my favorite meats.
And very, like, I was, because I eat, like, the wood is very like, I guess, rich, dense. I wasn't
Mm.
expecting it to be like that. I was
It's
like,
like almost purple.
yeah, and it was
Yeah.
like, wasn't expecting it. Like, it was good, but it's like, it's one of those things, like, I'd probably have to eat it like a few times, cook it a few times. I'm like, okay, like, this is good because somebody cooked it for me. So I'm like, I don't know how they prepare it, but I was like, all right, like, it's cool, like, I
Hey,
guess,
you,
you
you
know.
guys you guys have Nutria, right?
No,
You don't
there
have.
might be, yeah, there might be nutrient somewhere around here. I don't know.
Okay, because I was almost positive that you live in South Jersey.
Yeah, we got groundhogs, so basically like land nutrients, right?
Yeah. You ever eaten a groundhog?
No,
Oh, groundhog's good, man.
I hear
I've,
it's good. I have not
I've,
Yeah.
tried. I have not tried it. I would if I killed one. I'd eat it. Why not?
Dude,
yeah,
I'm hoping to get a couple this before they go into hibernation.
yeah, we got. I mean, they're still all out. Like, I've shot a few for farmers because they go out there and just dig holes, you know,
Have you
and farm
seen?
shoot everyone you see. And I'm like, and like, I'm not a big killer, like, just to kill. Like, I've tried coyote hunting before. I just can't do it because it's like, what am I gonna do with it? Like, just put the skin on my wall? Like, it's like I want to be able to use the meat. You know, I don't want to kill just to kill. It's like groundhog. It's like, I've killed a few, but it's like, yeah, I don't know, man.
At
Like,
some point in my life, I'll try coyote just cause. I actually there's the Asian dude I work with, and he's like, "Oh no, yeah, yeah, we'll eat it. I'll cook it up. I'll make some pho out of it." And I'm like, "Okay, game on."
Wow. Coyote pho.
Yeah,
yeah,
pho. I'll make some pho, he says. I'm like, "Okay, I'll try
yeah.
it."
I got a lot of friends that trap, and I went on a trap line once, and there was this trap with two foxes, like a male and a female. I mean, they were just, I don't know. They went up and I get the whole reason behind trapping, and like, you need to manage the population. And I'm not gonna lie, it was a little rough. He just went up, and was like, and it's like, just double tap him in the head, and it's like, went on. We went on to the next set, and I was like, this is just
Yeah,
weird. Or
I
like, they're trapped, like, sitting there, and he just shot him, and like, he's like, help me, and I'm like, oh, okay, like, we're resetting the traps, and I'm like, this is, you know, I was a lot younger too, so maybe it was like, you know, maybe mentally I wasn't in a good headspace, but I get why people trap. You know, there is a reason, and I support trapping. I don't sound like I don't support it, you know, but some people are better trappers than others, I think.
I
Yeah,
feel bad.
I love trapping.
I do feel bad for foxes because they're just like so slender and weak. You know what I mean? Like it's not like it's like a big, strong, muscular. It's not like a wolf. You know what I mean? Like this thing's barely fighting for its own life. Coyotes kill them all the time. You know, the only reason I ever even kill them anyway is because they're killing my chickens, and it's like, you know, one or the other. Obviously, it's gonna go. But you know, I save the hides and stuff and have them tanned and stuff. But like, I almost feel bad. I do. I feel
It's
bad for them little slender little foxes. They can
like,
barely defend themselves.
I can't shoot a fox. Like, I've been hunting a long time, and I missed one fox with a bow, you know, a long time ago. just because they're hopping around. But now, whenever I see a fox, it's you see them all the time, but now it's almost like a rarity because, like I said, coyotes have taken over a lot of places. Like when I see foxes now, and like I like revert back to when I was like 14, like seeing a fox hunting for the first time was like the coolest thing ever. And like I go back to like my child, I was like, and I can just watch them and they pound, and they play and do whatever they do. I'm like, all right, okay, I'm content with that. And like I've had them come in range, and it's like I always just watch them or just film them. Like I can't bring myself to kill one. I don't know,
Yeah.
because they're beautiful, like big, like they're great. They tan great. They look neat, but it's like I just can't bring myself to do it, man.
Yep. I was the same way. I had two coyote pups under me last year, and they were running around in the trees around me like for like an hour, just like playing, chasing each other. And I'm like, I can't shoot these. I'm just gonna watch them. Like I couldn't do it. I couldn't bring myself to do it.
Yeah, raccoons are the same thing. I think like raccoons are hilarious. So it's like I don't know. I can't shoot a raccoon. I've tried. I've always missed. And it's like after a while, it's like maybe like the higher calling is like, yeah, after 3 misses on a raccoon, maybe that's not your thing. Let's just not shoot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my son shot a raccoon last year while we were out squirrel hunting, and I skinned it and took the meat and we cooked it up.
Yeah,
made tacos. It was good.
Nice.
Yeah, raccoon's pretty good.
I mean, but also I had I think I cooked it in barbecue sauce in the crock pot.
Yeah.
And then pulled all the meat and then had like cilantro and just all that stuff. So it's like, am I really tasting what raccoon tastes like?
Yeah, I don't think I'd throw a raccoon steak on the grill, but I'd definitely eat it that way. I've had barbecue raccoon before and it wasn't bad,
Yeah.
Drown the taste, but
I'm totally game to keep shooting raccoons because for one thing, one of the things that I like to do with hunting here in Michigan is look out for ways that my hunting can advantage other things that are imperiled. And raccoons eating turkey eggs is a big one. So I do think that it's good to trap raccoons or hunt them. Yeah. And then the other thing is we have the most populated state with geese in the country. We have over 300,000 Canada goose, So and they eat wild rice. Yeah. They eat the plants. So I want to murder as many of those as I can because I harvest wild rice.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, geese, we have early geese. I think you can start goose hunting soon or now in Jersey. There's a super early season. Mm-hmm. And, once the corn's down, like when I was working, I'd go into work at 5 in the morning, and I would say half the fields I drive past going into work, people are setting up like in the dark. And like the late season geese. And I goose hunted and duck hunted in high school because my friends had boats. So it was like we went. It's like, oh, we're going duck hunting. All right, cool. I don't call ducks, or I was like, I could shoot. I'm a good shot with a gun. I was like, I'll go. It's like, and it was old duck hunting and goose hunting, but I'll go if somebody has all the gear. I don't stop ever buying decoys or learning how to call because I just want to just shoot something.
I don't ever enjoy it. Like I'll go. I have some of the stuff. I'll go with my buddies. They've got all the gear. One of them's got a trailer, full of stuff. You set up the spread. To me, it's like, this is so much work. I'd rather scout my way into the woods, set up in a tree, and then get, 100 times more meat for way less effort and money than they put forth to do all that. So I don't know if that's their thing. Let them do it.
But you're clearly not a quack addict.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. I could care less. I mean, to be honest, goose sucks, in my opinion. It's not the greatest meat. If I'm hungry, I'll eat it, but I'm not going to spend a ton of time to pursue it unless you make pastrami or something out of it or, corned goose, but whatever, and duck's decent, but I don't care that much to pursue a tiny little breast and a wing, I don't care.
It's fun. We struggled, especially goose. We were never really good Canadian goose hunters because all the fields are private, back then. Mm-hmm. We could hunt a small lake next to private, but it's like the lake's frozen. Geese ain't coming in that motherfucker. They're going to go in the cornfield. So it's like, we struggled with goose, but duck season was nice because you can have 4 dudes in a boat having a good old time. with a box of shells and just laugh and have a good old time. Like especially like was it teal comes in early? I think it's teal season.
Yeah.
And it's like it's hot, and that was before deer season, I think even opened back then. So it was something to do to get in the woods with everybody, and it was great. But people I duck hunting with, they had access to good property. So it was like you would go out there and everybody would limit out. So it was fun duck hunting because you're like, okay, like I shot, 3 ducks, like I'm okay, like everybody in the boat limited out. So it's like cool. We clean it. We have like a big little cookout session, but net going out public land duck hunting here in Jersey, like I got guys that do it. They will kill like a dozen ducks all season. I'm like, dude, there's just no way, man.
No, I'm not doing that.
That is just a lot, but that is a hard duck hunting when it's on and you're in the right spot. You got good land. It's fun.
Well, I know a lot of guys that I think honestly, they just like to party a lot anyway. So a lot of the places they'll go, their wife probably get mad if they hear this, but they go to the lottery, right? Well, if they don't get drawn that day, they still stay out, right? And we just didn't, it was a bad day of hunting. But really what they're doing is going to the bar at like 7:30, 8 in the morning and bellying up to the bar for about 4 hours before they go home.
Oh my God.
Great.
Wow. Yeah, but I'm going to say the same thing. I agree with you, Greg. I've had a couple opportunities where I've hunted private property, got allowed onto a farmer's cut cornfield, and we did layout blinds, and every time I've done it, I've limited, And
it's fun, like in the layout blinds, and then snows or they're just landing on you, and you're just like falling up, and it's like you can't miss. Like that is, it's fun, and but it's like it's not necessarily sometimes skill involved in that because like you just have like 500 geese land, and you're like just pulling up. You're just like, you got 5 dudes shooting, and it's like there's so many geese down. You're like, well, geez, we're just like we're limited out in the first, come in, like, we're done. It's like, oh, this is it. But it's like because you can't shoot no more, So I'm like, it's fun, But I've spent more time laying in hedgerows, laying, in a tieback suit, goose season, not even having geese come into the spread. And that is like the worst.
Yeah.
Like, I remember out goose hunting, it was like the few moments it was good, man, it was good. But there was like 90%, it was like, this sucks. I'm freezing. It was like geese ain't flying. And I'm like, yeah, I'd rather just sit in a deer stand,
Yeah.
The only thing I'd want to do.
Freezing in a deer stand?
What's that?
Are you ever freezing in the deer stand, or is it just something more that you can handle?
I used to freeze. Now I got good gear, but in my late teens, high school, I fucking froze. There was no Carhartt bibs, like crappy boots from Kmart. Like like those stupid heaters. Like we had this one light this material up and put it in this little handheld thing. And it's like just have one in each pocket, and it stunk, but it kept your hands warm. It was like. You tape them to your feet so your boots, toes don't get fucking cold. But it's nice having good gear. It's nice to have gear that's accessible now, that's affordable. Back then we had like wool, people that have wool, but I couldn't afford that stuff. My dad couldn't either. So it was like you just like threw layers of horrible clothes together.
Yeah. I knew guys that would bring sleeping bags so they could sit in like the sleeping bag and then just lift their arms up out of the bag and grab the bow. And
I've tried that. I made my own suspenders, short sleeping bag for winter bow hunting, and that one, then like the IWAM and all that stuff came out. And I remember my buddy bought one. It don't get cold enough in New Jersey to use an IWAM. It just doesn't. Like that thing is like a sauna, dude. You put
that's like for Alberta or something,
Yeah, right. Like, oh my God, I'm dying in this thing. I'd rather be cold.
So we were deer season hunting one time, and you know how like so we did water rescue stuff, me and my buddy, and he had one of the winter survival suits for when you're on a boat. If you fall over, it's waterproof and like super insulated. And he's like, thought it would be a good idea. He goes, man, I'm going to wear my survival suit. It's really cold. It was like, -15 or whatever with the wind chill. he puts that thing on, and I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I'll just put on an extra base layer and like bring hand warmers with me if I need them, you know.
Yeah.
And so I'm there, and I got my hands in my muff, and I'm cold, but I'm not freezing, and I'm okay with cold as long as I'm not like frozen. And he's over there, and I could hear him. That suit's so loud, and you could hear him, and I hear him going, oh. Oh, trying to take the top of the suit off. He unzips it finally, and there's just steam billowing out. I look over. He was like 80 yards away from me or 100 yards away. We were gun hunting over a field. It's just steam billowing out of the suit.
Yeah, like the Jersey, when I hunt up north, it'll get cold because there's a couple ski resorts right across the river and, in Newark there. So it's like, it'll get cold up there, but like around here, it'll get cold, but usually it's like 2 or 3 days and it's like normalized, So it's like, all right, I'm going to hunt this cold front, it's super cold. I can hunt like, this is my job, it's like, by the time I get home, I might get 1 day, So I was like, I'd just tough it out for 1 day. I'll be cold, whatever. It's like for 2 hours, I can tough it out for 2 hours, But it's like, I would love to hunt like a state that doesn't allow baiting and like deer can just move like they do naturally. Because before they allowed baiting, like winter bell was some of my best times because the deer would herd up, the bucks would be with the does, and they would just be on the food. So it's like you seen 1 or 2 deer, you usually seen like 30.
Right.
Great. Now it's like everybody's got bait piles. So it's like these bucks don't really move too much. They're super skittish, and does, same thing. It's like, by the time winter bow comes in there, these does are on high alert, and then the last thing you want is 15 does herded up, catching a whiff of human scent because you're not beating that many does that have been around the few. So it's like the worst because like, oh man, I just want like 1 or 2 does in the winter. Like I'll shoot does all day long in the winter bow season, but it's like 1 or 2 does. I'm cool with that, man. Like I have a chance to kill one of these things, but I see like 10 or 15. It's like, they got me. Even the wind's in my favor. Like something will happen. There'll be one doe that's like randomly looks up or catches like a ground, and then it's over, and you're like, oh, all right, this is cool. So I'm gonna sit here and freeze while they're snorting and stomping all night long.
So is it public land? Are you allowed to bait on public land then in Jersey, or is it just private?
Bait everywhere.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah. So Delaware, I don't know if Maryland you can bait. I know Delaware you can't bait on public. You can bait on private, but not public. But with Delaware it's tough in the winter bow because people that have private are baiting. So the few small little pieces that I hunt in Delaware, there's just not enough, tonnage of food, acreage of food for them to survive. So you might have 1 or 2 deer living, in a 200-acre piece, but if somebody's baiting on private, they're going to be the deer all over there.
Have you made the trip over to Maryland to do the Sika?
No, I always get asked, and like I just never do. So just basically because it's like I hunt my buddy in Delaware. He lives in Delaware, so it's like I buy a Delaware tag. Him and I hunt together, but it's like I don't even fill a Delaware tag usually. So it's like
right.
I know it's $200 buck a tag, and I'm like, all right, because Jersey, I spend I can hunt $30 to buy your bow hunting license, and then once November hits, like the permit bow season, you got to buy your permit, which is $28. Then you got to buy a buck stub, which is $28, and then you got to buy a permit for every zone you hunt. Why hunt 3 zones?
Oh, geez.
So it's like winter bow comes, I just dropped $150 just to hunt New Jersey, basically.
That's more of a racket than Illinois. I thought Illinois was quite the racket, but that's something else. And for a while there, like I didn't realize people kept asking me how much tags were and like wanted to come hunt Illinois, and then I told them, and they're like, "Oh man, forget that. I'm not going." They actually dropped it now. So like a non-resident, it used to be stupid expensive. It was like about $1,000 for 2 bow tags for Illinois, and I think they dropped it down. It's like $450 or something now. Which
like Delaware is $250.
Oh, that's. I mean, it's not cheap, but it's not that expensive either compared to some.
New York's like $120, I think.
Yeah.
You get a bear tag, you get a turkey tag, and it's great. I'm like, oh, this is awesome, you know? And it's like, because when I was hunting New York with my buddy, it was nice. It was like $100. I'm pretty much hunting, you
Yeah.
know? So like, PA is like 150, I think, for me to buy a tag. It's not much, but like Delaware, you know, because I might only hunt it 4 times, 5 times, you know, all season. So it's like sometimes that's a hard pill to swallow. I'm like, dude, that's like $50 a pop every time I want to go hunt Delaware.
Every time
It's
you go out. Yep.
yeah. So I'm like, I used to work in Delaware and I hunted Delaware a lot because I worked in Delaware. So like in those, the canal was 5 minutes from my job. So I hunted a lot. But now working in PA, living in Jersey, it's like Delaware tag sometimes it's a hard pill to swallow to buy, just because, I got kids and a wife. I got to like balance out where that money goes. Like, hey,
Yep.
family vacation, tires on the truck,
Yep.
food on the table, or go hunt Delaware for 4 days. And I'm like, my wife, she's cool with it, when I hunt some states. But I would love to hunt Maryland. I would love to go chase the stags.
I think it'd be cool. I don't know if how I've talked to a few people that have done it, and so far everybody I've talked to that's an out-of-stater has not been successful. But I don't know. I still think it'd be cool to do, even though you're because the way it works, I think, is the one tag you're allowed to do either.
Yeah.
Which I mean, it'd be kind of cool just to do one of the little STEAKS because you can't do it anywhere else. But then again, maybe your money's spent better places, something that'll fill the freezer a little more too.
Well, that Sika, I guess it's Sika.
Well,
Sika?
some people say Sitka, Sika. I
Yeah.
think it's actually Sika, but they call it Sitka, or maybe it is a Sitka, but they call it Sika because Sitka also refers to the deer on Sitka Island in Alaska. I don't know.
But I know like it's delicious meat though, man. It is fantastic, like phenomenal, like world class.
Oh,
It's better than elk, I would say.
wow. So far, my favorite deer is fallow deer. Like
Oh,
Indian fallow deer is pretty good.
yeah, I had mule deer, a guy that went to Montana or somewhere out there. He shot a mule deer in the sage country. You can taste the sage.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like you can, it was
Soak that in milk for sure.
yeah, I was like, I can taste that. Like it was good, but it was one of those things like I'd probably have to like cook it myself or find another way to cook it because he pretty much just put it on the grill and was like salt and pepper and like it was good eating, but I was like you can taste sage country, I was like, yeah, that would be an acquired taste, I think, for me.
Might as well make breakfast sausage out of it then, right? It's already got
Yeah.
the sage in it.
Yeah.
Clay,
Like, I'm a very basic plain, like just a little bit of pepper on my steak is deer steak or even regular steak.
yep.
I'm not a big I'm not a cook by any means, and my wife's a good cook, but she doesn't go crazy with steaks. It's just very simple and basic, because the kids all have different. So she cooks it very basic. So it's really sometimes not a lot of flavor in the steak because my youngest, she don't like pepper. Like the other one, she's going to be 13, so she doesn't really like anything about anything. So it's like the steaks are very plain. So it's like, man, I kind of miss like when I would living alone, I could like doctor up my steaks a little bit. I was like, I kind of miss having that ability to really ramp up my steaks. But I'm sure once my youngest gets 13, I'll probably be able to do that again because she'll probably hate everything as well.
Nice. Clay, go ahead and ask your question that
Oh,
we ask everybody.
we ask the same question, every show. What is the worst wild food that you have ever eaten? Could be any food, it just has to be wild.
Wild food.
So plant, animal, mushroom, whatever.
Oh my gosh. I don't even know. Wild game. It's nothing that's. Huh.
We've had people say muskrat. We've had people say, somebody gave them a deer hind quarter that was
I would say my buddy went. I'm not a big mushroom fan. I do not like mushrooms, and he went out foraging for mushrooms and made like fajitas, like vegetarian type fajitas with the mushrooms. And I'm gonna say that was probably like the worst.
The most disappointing anyway, right?
Yeah, it was just, I mean, it was bad. Like I can eat mushrooms like smothered in a cheesesteak with like cheese and like steak and cheese. Like, but I don't see them, I can eat them, but like I can't do portobellos. It's just the texture, like I don't know, visually, it's like it just doesn't work for me. And I'm like, he was so excited for these things, and I was like, I remember just eating like 3 bites in. I was like, I'm gonna throw up all over my face. Like it was just like it was terrible. I was like, I would rather like starve than have to eat. I was like, that's probably the one thing I was like, I guess I die. If this is all there is to eat, this is where I die because I just couldn't do it. It was just like the texture was spongy. The flavor was just like, oh God. No matter what I put on it, it was like this just tastes like literally you just is this even like edible? Like is this taste like foam that you just bought at the store, you know?
I wonder what it was. I wonder if it was like puffballs or what. Puffballs
No,
are terrible, by the way.
Yeah, whatever that. Like, and my other buddy, he's a big mushroom forager, or the morel. Like morels, I could care less. People that do morels,
they're
like,
okay.
but I'm like, I don't get. I'm not waking up to go look for morels. I'm sorry, and I'm not going to eat them. So I was like, I'm not going to pick them. You know?
Yeah. For me, the morels thing is a bummer just because they always have so much grit in them, and it just seems like it can never get washed out.
Yeah,
seems impossible.
And like I grew
That's
up.
because you live in too much sand, Clay.
Yeah.
Like, we grew up like grandparents had a garden. My dad, he's an old country farm boy, had a garden. Like so, there was a lot of like we grew a lot of our own stuff, and I don't know if that kind of messed my palate up. There wasn't a lot of variety growing up, So it was like, this is what you got. It was like we literally Tuesdays we ate this every Tuesday. Like my dad was very, like he worked shift work, and so it was like we had like stuffed peppers, we had chipped beef, and it was always like very routine, very rigid, So we had gardens, we didn't really buy a lot of stuff, vegetables and stuff like that from the store. So it was like I didn't really start trying stuff until I was like an adult. When you're late teens, early 20s, I'm not eating that stuff, man. Like I'm just like I'm gonna just get a cheesesteak or a cheeseburger, So my palate isn't necessarily the best when it comes to accepting new textures. When it comes to
That's awesome, man.
and it's weird. Like I feel bad because like my youngest, I was like, you just eat that, and it's like, oh, I wouldn't fucking eat that. So I was like, she was like, no. And I'm like, well, you gotta eat it, and she'll be like, no, and I'm like, yep. I would tell my parents probably no, and I would just, well, then you're not getting anything else, okay? And I'm like, we're an old Mexican standoff here. I was like, no, you're not eating, but I'm like, I respect your decision because I wouldn't eat that. I don't know, like, no, so okay, like, touche, kid. All right,
nice. Greg, I got to ask you before we wrap things up here, if you could give somebody like advice hunting public land and just kind of, if you could give them advice to where should they start to find success, what would you say to that?
Find success. Where would you start is, I mean, the learning curve is definitely with trail cameras. You can the learning curve isn't as steep now. You have podcasts and YouTube videos, so the curve can come fast, a lot faster than say what I was doing. But pick something, be it, hey, I want to learn about what they're eating. Spend time learning what deer eat. Like get really good at that, or maybe food's not your thing. Tracks, rubs, like pick one thing and really immerse yourself into that. Like tracks are always going to give away. Like a big deer is going to leave a big track, big body deer. I don't, could be 100 inches, could be 190 inches, but learn to cut fresh tracks is probably the best beginner advice I could tell you. That's a wolf, a coyote, they're following scent and tracks. So take that same mindset. You're a predator. Act like it. I would say one thing: tracks, learn
Nice.
tracks, fresh tracks, old tracks, and there's a lot of resources now online about it. And every time you go out, get cell camera, take pictures of it. Hey, look at this. Put your hand next to it, or put something on your bow when you're scouting. You can start gauging, like, hey, this track here, I got it over there too, but I'm in the middle of a cornfield here or middle of a field. But hey, this same size track is over in this thick stuff. You can start kind of putting puzzle together a little bit. That's what I would, tracks.
I like it.
Nice.
So with that being said, thank you so much for coming on. And before we go, can you just kind of tell people where they can find you, maybe reach out to you, all that kind of stuff?
Instagram is usually I don't have Facebook. There's YouTube. I got some old scouting videos. There's a few kills on there. Got a couple buck kills, for this one here I'm pointing to. I shot him right there. Yeah, 7 yards going back to the bed at 7:30 in the morning.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice. That's a quick day. That's a good day.
Yeah. I shot him. I remember dragging him out, me and my buddy. I almost stepped on a timber rattler. Like, whoa, that's a big ass rattlesnake. And I was like, and we're in tall, like, I call it blueberry brush. It's not blueberry. It's just like this brush. And I'm like, we both just froze because, like, dude, it's like, are we on this? Because usually they stick to the rocks open. Like, we're in like waist deep brush. So I'm like, just don't move. Well, I don't know what we're doing. So it's like, it's midday, it's hot. It's like, we're probably like in a nest of rattlesnakes. So like, let's just back it up a little bit,
That would suck.
Wow.
Yeah. Instagram, Greg Litzinger, YouTube. There's some cool stuff in there.
Actually, isn't it bow hunting?
Bow hunting fiend, yeah.
Fiend, yeah. All right, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for talking to us, and it was fun.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that was a fun conversation for sure.
And once again, thank you so much for listening to the Publicly Challenged podcast. I hope you enjoyed the show, and if you did, please subscribe on whatever platform it is you're listening to. Also, if you could leave a review, that would help us out. And you can check us out on Instagram or at publiclychallenged.com. And once again, thank you so much for listening to the show.
Friends of NRA is your chance to support our Second Amendment rights and preserve America's hunting traditions. Join Friends of NRA at one of our 600 exciting events nationwide. From games to auctions and exclusive firearms, Friends of NRA events are your chance to support a cause you care about while having a great time with patriots in your community. Whether you're a seasoned shooter, an avid hunter or outdoorsman, or passionate about freedom, there's a place for you within Friends of NRA. Visit friendsofnra.org to find an event near you. Stand up for freedom with the Friends of NRA. Friends of NRA is your chance to support our Second Amendment rights and preserve America's hunting traditions. Join Friends of NRA at one of our 600 exciting events nationwide. From games to auctions and exclusive firearms, Friends of NRA events are your chance to support a cause you care about while having a great time with patriots in your community. Whether you're a seasoned shooter, an avid hunter or outdoorsman, or passionate about freedom, there's a place for you within Friends of NRA. Visit friendsofnra.org to find an event near you. Stand up for freedom with the Friends of NRA.